Welcome to the For Waukegan podcast, where our love for God compels us to be for Waukegan.
This podcast shares real stories of faith, resilience, and community transformation to inspire unity, deeper relationships, and love for our city in the name of Jesus.
Hosted by
Adi Camacho,
Eugene Edwards,
and me, Raul Ochoa. We'll explore how God is moving in Waukegan and how we can be a part of His greater story.
Join us as we journey together, sharing stories of hope and action in our community. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the For Waukegan podcast, and we're super excited today. We're on episode 14, and today I have some special people joining us today. I've got Leilani, who is a mechanical engineer from Journey Church. She has a passion for sewing, a heart for learning, and a vision for building a life of impact. Okay, Leilani. Yes. And we've got also Malik. He is an IT technician for the Waukegan Public School District and is a youth mentor for the Boys and Girls Club of Lake County. He attends a place called Home. Woo woo, a little shout out. And he loves music, enjoys playing video games, and recently got engaged in Paris. Yep. How was that?
It was kind of like a movie, man. It was something like you always think about, right? When you finally get ready to propose, it's like, oh, I got to do it on a grand scale.
Yeah.
So it was just amazing to see how God provided and just giving me the opportunity to just, show my soon-to-be bride how wonderful she is to me.
Aw, that's such a cute story. I like that. So today on this episode, obviously, thank you guys for joining us and being part of this. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what Refine is and how that brought us, the three of us, kind of together, actually, because that's kind of how we met. So just for those of you listening for the first time, I know we've talked about Refine here and there, but Refine is a young adults leadership program created by Mosaic and the 12 local churches, right? It is an 18-month program that requires 6 retreats throughout the 18 months where we read 6 books and we get mentorship along the whole way. And the three of us actually got to be part of the first cohort, which started in 2022, right?
Yeah.
A long time ago, right? Man.
It feels like such a long time
ago. It does. It does.
So in this Refine program, right, 12 young adults get chosen, right? 2 of each congregation. And so we were part of the 12 selected, right, by our pastors and leadership. And so today we kind of want to just talk about like what that journey like looked like for us. So it's my first question for you guys is because I know that, like we all went through it. That's how we met. What was it before like Refine? Like where were you at in life before you, or maybe even just like when you got asked to be part of Refine? Like what was that like for you guys?
Ladies first. Do you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. So for me, I think the season that I was in before had 2 main things. The first was I was kind of in the midst of graduating from the College of Lake County and then transferring to the Milwaukee School of Engineering, which was kind of a big thing for me because I didn't really know what that was going to look like. And then the second thing was during that time, I actually had my cousin. She passed away. It was unexpected. And it's kind of one of those things where you don't ever think it will happen to your family, right? But it happened to mine. So it was a really difficult season, in all honesty. I think I wasn't in a healthy place mentally or spiritually. And I remember I was like, Mom, I don't want to do this no more. Like, we haven't even started and I don't want to do it. And I was like, she's like, no, like, just do it. Literally, this is probably where you need to be. And I was like, okay, you're right, Mom. So that's kind of, it was like I was excited to be in this new season of my life, but it was really upsetting to have to go through grief and do it in a group of people that I also didn't really know yet. So I'm like, I don't know who you guys are and I'm hurting, but like, I'm supposed to be here. So it was a little bit weird.
For sure.
Yeah.
For me, starting out, I think I was maybe a little bit over 6 months into, being a young adult leader for a place called Home and really starting to mingle with Mosaic and really getting to know a lot of the people that are around at every event, a lot of the hands that go into like preparing things that happen throughout Mosaic. I also was working for a technology company that I didn't enjoy that much. You know, I was a supervisor, but I did many different things, many different hats. So I was like always working, always stressed out. And I think just going through like the typical like young adult thing or where you're trying to figure out, okay, what am I doing with my life? That was essentially the season of life I was in.
I just realized that I don't think we've ever really talked about, like, the three of us, like, about this, you know, because like my journey sounds a lot similar to you guys's, right? Like when I went into Refine, I had just started Kenosha, right? And I was like, we were starting from scratch and starting youth leadership by ourselves. And I remember having this conversation with AB when we got told that we were going to be part of it, right? Because he was the one that was selected to go from Iglesia Manuel alongside with me. And he was like not excited for it, but I was like, bro, like we got to go into this like with a fresh mind, like we're going to meet new people, you know, we're going to lock in. And I remember because our first meeting was at O'Toole's.
Right, O'Toole's.
That was our first dinner. And I didn't really meet you, the two of you, that day, but it was at night when I met Malik for the first time. And then Leilani, I met you later, yeah. It was, I think, the second retreat or whenever Raul came to give the hoodies. Yeah, that's when so for those of you that don't know, during these retreats, right, it's centered around the story of the prodigal son. And so in the process of the retreat, we get the items that represent that story, right? So we got a hoodie
represented the robe.
That represented the robe. We got a ring right here, guys. It says "Be still and know."
Got it on my neck.
I don't have
Leilani failed. And we also got some sneakers that represented the shoes. So it was honestly a really awesome journey in that aspect. So yeah, for me, I was in that place of like also seeking identity, trying to figure things out again. I had just, you know, came out of a long relationship and I was trying to figure out things and who I was at the time. And I'm very grateful that we got to go through that like together. So
for sure.
What was that like? Well, because it was 18 months, guys. I don't know if you realize that, but it was 18 months.
It was.
What was it like? Like, Malik, what was that journey like for you?
So the start of the journey, it was actually like right when me and my fiance started to date. Because I believe we started in like September of 22. So it was right at the beginning of that and really just starting to build the like young adult like relationship with a place called home and the young adults that was serving with me. And just really trying to get a footing of like, what does young adult leadership look like, right? Yeah. And I get approached by my pastor, Pastor Eugene, a place called Home. And he tells me like, hey, there's going to be this 18-month process for young adult leaders, pretty much just helping you develop into leadership in whatever way that's going to look like. So going into it, you don't know what to expect, right? It's something new. You know, first it's like you're thinking, okay, man, first, do I even have the time to do this, right? Because you already, as a young adult, there's so many things you want to give your time to, so many things that already have your time. So it's about if I was going to be able to fully commit to it and embrace that journey. But once the ball got rolling, it was very evident quickly that that was definitely where God was calling me to be.
That's awesome. What about you, Leilani?
I think for me overall, it was a really good experience. It definitely did take me a while to like kind of go and mingle with everybody. I would be that one person to like, okay, bye guys.
Off to the side.
Yeah.
Off to the room Friday night.
Yeah. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now or something. And I'd just be on my phone, on my bed. But I think once I got over that fear of what does it mean to meet new people, it was really fun. I think it was really cool to be in a space with other young adults because one of the things that I struggled with the most was being one of the younger ones there.
You were
I was the youngest one.
You were the baby.
I was the baby. So it was really interesting to be in a space where like you talk about leadership, but then you're the youngest one there. And I'm just like, okay, I guess everybody here takes me serious. So
we sure did.
Yeah. So it was really cool to be in that space where other people believed in me, even at times where I didn't believe in myself as a leader. Yeah.
I think for me, one of the things that I take away the most, right, was our bonding. Like I remember like the first night, right? So for those of you that don't know, like the layout of the retreat is we get there Friday night right? We have a communal dinner, and then we go into Saturday, which is like a session. Well, it starts with actually time of solitude.
Yeah, well, breakfast first.
Right. Well,
Gotta eat.
We can't
Gotta
forget about
eat.
the breakfast, guys.
It wasn't that good, but
Okay. Tell us how you really feel.
hey, I'm just being honest.
I agree.
But it was about the relationships.
It
That
was
the
about the
important
relationship, guys. So we survived on that coffee.
part. Yeah, that coffee helped me. It got me through the day.
That's true. That's true. Except Pastor Carlos kept showing up with his Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he never failed.
It never, every morning. It just
Pastor
never
Carlos,
failed.
bro, when you taking orders, man.
Cohort 2, pay attention to this.
Maybe they get Starbucks.
Maybe they do.
And we just
Who
don't know.
knows? They've been getting everything that we didn't get.
Oh,
I don't want to sound ungrateful though.
It was a wonderful experience.
it was. Honestly, it was a wonderful experience.
Yes,
like,
it was.
I think for me, like the first time I did the time of solitude, right? Because we did the time of solitude, and then every retreat had a theme that went along with the prodigal son story, right? And so we would have, sessions, right? And then at the end, we got to meet with our mentors. So it was like a day and a half kind of like retreat setting. And so the time of solitude, my first time of solitude was so hard because it's an hour of solitude of you and just the Lord. That was hard. By the end, I was much better at it. But the first time I was like, I picked a nice spot. I was with a nice view. And then I was like, I'm done journaling within like 15 minutes. So I don't know, like, what was your guys' experience with that?
You want to go? Or?
Sure, I can go. I think that was probably one of the things that I enjoyed the most. But I think it's because, like, I like to be alone sometimes. So it was a little bit weird. I think for me, the hardest part was just finding somewhere to go because I'm like, I don't want to go where somebody else is at. But then once I got in the rhythm of like finding my spot, I'm like, okay, nobody's going to come here. And if they do, then like it's already claimed by me. And it was just kind of like, I don't know. It was really, to me, it was really nice to be able to just carve out space where it was just me and God. And I could just talk to him. Because after I was done journaling, after like 15 minutes too, I'm like, okay, I guess let's look at the water or something, you know? So yeah, to me, that was fun.
Yeah, it was something that was newer for me, like having a whole hour dedicated to just building my relationship with God, right? Like that silence and like solitude aspect of it. But it very quickly did become something that I looked forward to on Saturday morning. And I'm sure we'll get into at some point. Like, I'm an emotional guy. I feel a lot of different things, right? And it's not always the easiest for me to show those emotions in front of other people. So being granted the space to where I can process whatever I may be feeling that Saturday morning was actually really good for me to be able to do. And if I'm not mistaken, one of the verses that kept coming up was like about how you were feeling essentially. And it was that Matthew 11 passage about rest. And it was always the one that I immediately connected with on that morning was about receiving that rest from God.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at the top of that paper was always be still. Be still and know that I am God, which is actually what's engraved on the exterior. And even now when I look at it, it reminds me a lot of like, be still. And I love that it's not completed, right? Because it reminds me to say like, and know that I am God, you know, and on the inside of the ring is the prodigal son story engraved as well, you know? And so sometimes it's like a nice reminder to go like, look at it, right? Because at the end, like that solitude time became my favorite time. You know, it was honestly one of the most like, I'm such a doer. And I know that like as young adults, like we're such doers and we're all serving. Like you're in a room surrounded by people who like are doing the same thing that you're doing.
Like putting in that work.
In that work.
That grind.
Yeah.
That young adult grind is not easy.
Amen to that. I remember even Leilani always carrying her notebook.
Yeah.
Like ready to like sketch it all out.
To take notes like I was in school.
But that and then I don't know, it was just the most fruitful time like to finally be in that space of like getting to know ourselves a little bit better.
For sure.
You know, like I know we did the Enneagram test.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you guys remember what your number was?
I was a 4, which dealt with like emotions, I believe it was,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah. Or uniqueness is what it was. 4 was about being very in tune with your emotions and the desire to be unique.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like the artist or something like that.
Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
but I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. I think I'm like, I don't remember to be honest, but I think I'm like a 5, like an investigator or
Oh yeah,
something
yeah, yeah.
like that. I'm like, that makes sense.
And I'm a 2, which
2.
is the
Which
helper.
is the helper, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They fit our
Yeah, I think so.
personality.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I think I capped this pretty good.
I think one of my favorite retreats, probably also one of the hardest, right? Because we went through a series of different retreats,
Mhm.
right? We didn't start to bond right away because I remember the first retreat we were just each in our separate little groups.
Right. Journey is over here.
Journey was over
Bliss
here.
is over here.
Yeah. And then and I remember, I think it was when I met you, when we went to Olive Garden, I think.
Yeah, one of them we did go to Olive Garden, yeah.
Yeah. And so that first conversation that I had with Leilani was actually about school and being debt free.
Yeah.
Which shout out to Leilani.
Right? They're doing school the right way.
Yeah.
And so we had that conversation. That was the first time that like I had really had a conversation with someone from Journey who wasn't Pastor Carlos.
Yeah.
And so that same day I met you, I met Juan that day. I met Correa that day. And that day was, I think we were doing the Enneagram assessment.
Oh, yes, because then we were like staying up late trying to figure out what number everybody was.
Yes.
Yeah. I
We
remember
stayed
that.
up until like, 4 a.m?
Something like that. I think that's when Juan got the name Dr.
Dr.
Juan.
Juan.
Dr. Juan.
He was going around helping everyone, diagnosing what their numbers were.
Yeah. I do
Yeah.
remember. It's coming back to me.
It's coming back.
Yeah.
It's been a while, guys. It's been a while. But yeah, that's where Juan got his name, Dr. Juan.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like that's when we started all to bond.
Yeah.
Because it was like retreat number 3 or 2nd or
3 or 4.
3 or 4.
I think it was the third one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whichever one was right after. Was it after or before Robert Marshall when he came?
Before.
Before. Okay.
Before.
That was the turning point for me. Was
Ooh.
like after Robert Marshall came.
Explain to us what that means.
So Robert Marshall, he came in. I think the book we went through was like Beyond Colorblind, which was talking about like being a Christian and like being from like different backgrounds and things like that, right? So it was about race, and so we're all like, man, what is this retreat going to be about? And then in comes Robert Marshall with these blocks like for Jenga, right? And we're like, okay, what are we going to do with these? And then like next thing you know, he has us like writing like our deepest and darkest secrets on index cards, and then like throwing them. It's like, okay, maybe we're gonna throw them away. And then it was like you had to pick it up and you had to read out what someone wrote on the card. So it was very different from what we read in the book, but it did make space for us to really see each other differently, because we all knew we were leaders to some capacity within the church, right? But I think sometimes, like, when you're a leader, everybody expects you to have it together all the time. So I think it really started to help us all see that it's like, yeah, we all very much have our own issues and things that we're dealing with. And I think that started to like lowers everyone's guard and didn't feel like you had to put on that leader face where you can just like really talk about where you were at, and like what God was doing in you. So I think that was the turning point in regards to like our relationships, because it's like once you start sharing those things, right? It's like I can't say you don't know me now. You know stuff that like people I know for 3 years don't even know, right?
Yeah.
Stuff my mom or my dad doesn't even know.
Yeah.
So
That's actually very true. I think for me I'm not like an emotional person, but that day was a little overwhelming.
for sure.
But you know what I felt? It was a lot of like healing in that moment, you know, because we were bringing our it's kind of like the concept of, and I was at Journey this weekend and Pastor Carlos talked about like our wounds being healed through his wounds, through Jesus Christ's wounds.
And as Robert Marshall would say, healing is the journey, not the destination, right?
Yeah. Healing is the journey. I think that's something that, like, obviously we all process that retreat. Did you miss that? You missed that
Oh,
retreat.
you missed that
I wasn't
retreat?
there. That was the day I
Oh,
graduated.
man.
Yeah.
There's priorities.
I know. I remember. I was so sad because I heard so much, like so many good feedback about how that was. And I was like, well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. But no, I think it would have definitely been like very overwhelming for me. But Juan did tell me, he's like, dude, you would have liked that retreat. I'm like, yeah, I think I was where I was supposed to be though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it crazy? I can see it exactly and like hear like the voice inflection that Juan used.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Shout out to Juan.
Shout out to
Juan. Actually, shout out to Dr. Juan.
Can't forget the doctor.
Can't forget the doctor. Actually, which brings me to like the groups. So during this refined process, right, we get assigned groups.
Right. We got like $1,000, right?
Yeah, we had to do like a project. We got a
Right.
certain amount of money and we got to do like a community project,
Right.
essentially, which I guess puts our leadership to like
Our leadership
leadership
skills in motion,
in
right?
motion,
Or on
you know?
display, rather.
on display. And so we all thought this was going to be super easy because we're all leaders and we're all, actively serving in our community. Boy, were we wrong. Because you've got all these leaders now making decisions and everybody wants to go in a different direction.
Of course.
The budget is this, like, it's a certain amount. And the guidelines were, in our defense, It was
a little rocky
at first.
Instructions unclear.
Yeah, to be determined. Cohort, I hope they did better. Second cohort, I hope they did better. But yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
I'm sure they worked out the kinks.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. We were the
guinea pigs.
we're the guinea pigs.
The
Yeah.
guinea pigs.
And so that's how you, Juan, and I were paired in our group. We were group number 3.
Something like that.
Yeah. Who were you with?
I was with Delano, Nikel, right?
Shout out Delano. Delano was great to work
Yeah,
with, right?
he was always on top of stuff. Always.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
that sounds like
Delano,
Delano.
brute force, man. We gonna get it done.
Literally.
And so for our group project, we did a dinner for a local mom who was going through a hard time.
Yep, a mom in need.
And mom in need. And when we sat down with her, we went to a Mediterranean place.
Yep, it was Papa Marco's, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh, Papa Mark. I have been there, guys. I kept saying that I hadn't been there, but
Yeah, you were there. Yeah, that's where we went. That's where we met. And then, if I'm not mistaken, we got her a stroller or something like that too.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that was honestly a pretty good, pretty awesome experience because it definitely took us out of our comfort zone versus doing something like, like a bigger project. I think we were more intentional about relational building within our community.
Yeah.
So I don't know, what did you guys end up doing?
Yeah, I just remember being asked to speak at Correas. Whatever, I know he did like supporting like students that are graduating from high school and going to college. So he asked me to speak and share about my experience there. I think to me that was more memorable because that was like, I'm passionate about stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, I can do that. So yeah, I think we probably ended up deciding on like a family that was in need and gave them the money. I know we had a bunch of great ideas, but then when it came down to like implementing these, it was just kind of like, well, we ran out of time, guys. And we were like, well, yeah, we ran out of time. Now what? So I know there was intentionality behind thinking about the person that we were going to give the money to. But to me, it was more memorable speaking at Correa's event that he did.
And what do you remember the most about that event?
I think it was just really cool to see that there are people in this community that believe in higher education. Right, that want to support students pursuing higher education. And I think for me, the biggest thing is there is a way. You don't have to just settle for graduating high school and then going to work. You can do more. So to me, it was really cool to know that even though there wasn't as many students there, but the students that were there, like I know Mindy was there and now she's going to college. I'm like, okay. I was like, okay, cool. It's like, that's one kid. or not kid, because she's a young adult now. It's like it's one young adult that chose to pursue higher education.
That's crazy, because it's like we go back to like we started this in 2022,
Yeah.
and now she's off to college.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, an opportunity that was created because that was one of the projects that we did through. I mean, it wasn't one of our projects, but it was a project that one of the young adults did through Refine program. And so God, like, creating a space for somebody else, like, to be there.
Yeah.
You know, so that's pretty awesome. I think for like the group setting, one of my favorite parts, and I think this was for me the turning point for me, was our group. Honestly, I know you and I and Juan formed this beautiful friendship through that. We ended up having coffee every other Monday.
Like, yeah. For a little bit when we first started, it was every Monday for a little bit.
It was every Monday, yeah.
Life eventually started happening, and it went to every other Monday, and then we haven't done it in a while now. So
right.
now we have an excuse to start it up again.
True. I think one of the beautiful things was for me, because I grew up in church, right? I think and I say this a lot, this concept of the Lord deconstructing what I thought was my idea of church, right? And so for me, it was always like Iglesia Manuel, and this is the box, and this is where, you know, this is where my community is. And being able to like have those first conversations with like Juan and you about like, there's more to than Iglesia Manuel.
Right.
I was like, oh, there's Journey. Oh, there's a place called home. Oh, there's Sign of the Dove. Like, where has this world been?
Right.
And just to be able to see like God's kingdom, you know, and how our differences actually make us better.
Yeah.
You know, I also remember like our first conversation, right? We actually went to the mall. Like,
oh, yeah. We went to the mall and you were helping me pick out a perfume that I didn't even buy. But I actually did end up getting it like, years later. But I do remember. And then we walked around the mall outside. We got Starbucks. I got a matcha. Did you get a matcha?
I think so.
I think you probably got a matcha.
Yeah, it was my favorite.
I'm surprised you didn't get a chai. You usually do the chai latte.
See, okay, we've gone through his journey. See, this is what happens when you don't have coffee
development,
with me.
You know, development.
I think that's one of the biggest things that I got from Refine was new friendships outside of my congregation, and seeing how beautiful it is to be in unity, working towards God's kingdom, you know, and this whole concept of hashtag for Waukegan, you know, became so prominent in my life. And I know like one of the things that like today, where I am in life, you know, like I just recently stepped into a new role, right? That I don't believe that I would have been in if it wasn't for Refine, you know, and how just God slowly orchestrated like everything for that purpose, you know?
Like, as you were talking about, it reminds me of one of the Saturday sessions that we had when they talked about the invisible hand of God, right? That it's like sometimes like you're being guided by this invisible hand that you don't realize is there until like after the fact when you start to reflect. And I don't know if you remember, it was one of our Mondays sitting in Starbucks and just talking about just Refined in general, just talking about that whole journey, that process, and like how God was just like changing just our minds about leadership, and essentially, right? About that leadership stepping outside of just our four walls and like taking God back out of that church box that we put him in, right?
Yeah.
And it was a lady that was sitting next to us that was having like a really hard time.
Yeah.
And she just heard us talking and like hearing how we were from 3 different churches and in some program or something that we were doing, right? And just seeing how she thought we were like friends for years, just catching up. And really it was just the start of a new relationship being built.
Yeah.
And it was definitely refreshing to see how God is just very personable. How sometimes, you know, you can get so caught up in like being in your own box, like that tunnel vision, and you don't even realize how God is utilizing you in these various like different capacities and different spaces. And it just really helps to paint that picture of like what fruitfulness is for, right? Like you start to really see that that journey that God is taking you through is not only for you, but for the body and for people to benefit from as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Amen to
that
that.
was the beauty
Yeah.
of Refined.
Amen to that.
Mm.
I think one of the things that I just want to I want a lot of the people, if you ever have the opportunity just to go through Refine, honestly, it's a pretty awesome journey. And I remember the end of that the last retreat. Oh, the last retreat. You, my friend,
Mm-hmm.
when I say that I was proud,
Mm-hmm.
I was proud of you.
Thank you.
Because you literally, from the first retreat to the very end, your transformation journey was one of my favorites to get to be a part of. And I also love that you drew a picture.
Yeah, I did draw a picture.
And what was that like to draw, to paint that?
I think it was really cool because I remember in my picture I had drawn kind of a little mountaintop, and I remember saying, and when I was reflecting, is that when I started Refined, I was at the bottom of the hill, right? I didn't know where I was going. I always think of Psalms 23, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And I felt like I was at the bottom of the valley. And as I kind of got closer to rediscovering that love that Christ has for me, and honestly just reminding myself that he is what sustains me and what will get me through these difficult seasons, at the end, I was I drew myself at the top of the mountaintop and the sunshine, just shining on me. And even though it was something where I didn't know how long I was going to be there for, I was at least thankful that God had let me experience that after the 18 months, especially considering how I entered those, at the beginning of the program. So it was really cool to draw that out. I was like, this is exactly how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It was beautiful to hear you explain it that day too.
Yeah.
What would be the one thing that you could say that you've taken from that Refined journey and has now been reflected in your life today?
I would just say, even when we finally settled on what we were going to call this 18-month process, right?
Oh yeah, because it didn't have a name at first.
Right,
It was
did not
the
have
Leadership
a
Development
name.
Program. The Young Adult Spiritual Leadership Development Program. There we go.
Yeah, something like that. Spiritual formation program. Yeah. When you talk about a refining process, right? And especially when you talk about gold being refined, it takes heat and pressure and just those impurities is being pulled out of this metal. And in a way, it was our imperfections, our insecurities, and just all the yucky stuff that just comes from being a young adult as well as being in leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
We really got to see each other transform and turn into like these shining, precious things that God loves and desires. And like you talked about, like with seeing yourself on like the mountaintop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the true definition of peaks and valleys, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we always talk about
Yeah.
in the Christian walk, right? There's going to be valleys. You're going to be in a storm, and you'll be coming out of the storm. Like you talked about, you saw yourself like at the bottom of the mountain, right? You were in that valley, and then going through refine, you reached that mountaintop, that peak. So that's what I would say. That's what it was, really, working our way up to the mountaintop.
What about you?
I think for me, the biggest thing that I took away was just learning to love the person that God was healing me to be and is continuing to heal me to be, right? Because it was like, okay, 18 months, and now I have all this stuff that I just processed, and I'm like, okay, now what? You know?
How do I use this?
Yeah, how do I use this? Like, there was so many things that I was processing about myself and what I had gone through in my past, and I was just like, okay, well, it doesn't stop here. Like, this was just to like get me a little like dunked into the water. Now I have to swim. So I think for me, it was just that constant reminder that it is a process, right? And like you said, like healing isn't the destination, it's the journey, right?
Right.
That this was just the beginning. This was yeah. This was the easy part.
For sure.
Yeah.
This was the easy part.
But I got equipped with the tools to continue on to that journey of healing. Mm-hmm.
We were equipped.
Yeah.
We were equipped. You know, one of the biggest things that like I got from all of this, right? And when I designed the logo for the Refine program, right, it has a little door, right, to represent the N. And I think about like the process and it's like you have to open the door to be willing to go through that process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a decision. And I don't know, like every time I think about it, I think about how grateful I am for every person that said yes to the Lord, to walking through that door. You know, because now I see them actively serving in the community, but not only are they just like leaders, but they're my friends. You know, they're people that I know their hearts. You know, it's people that like I genuinely love, you know, and I think more importantly, Refine taught me that you can't do this alone. And that community is so important. And just going back to like, you know, the way that Jesus did ministry with his 12 disciples, you know, and they were all unique and they were all different and they did it together, you know? So I just want to thank you guys like for being here. And before we end this podcast, like I want to go into the question that, you know, we ask everybody in these chairs is, how did you see God before Waukegan this week?
How did I see God before Waukegan this week? I would say Sunday, we went to Sunday school. A group of us went to Sunday school at Shiloh Baptist, which is not actually part of Mosaic, but there's ties in there somewhere.
Yeah.
After Sunday school, we just all decided to come over to the women's house for breakfast. And Mackenzie was there, who was part of our first cohort.
Yeah.
Nikel, I was there, all part of the first cohort. Markel and Malcolm, as well as Kylan, which is a part of the second cohort, was there. And then Trey and Michaela, which is another couple that we met through Mosaic, that were all together. And we just gathered together, cooked, fellowship, and had breakfast together. And I just found myself just remembering just all that has come from being a part of Mosaic and just the relationships. It's like, I think that's how you can sum up Mosaic, is like the relationships. Like a lot of things get done because of the relationships and just the feeding of it. So just again, seeing how God has called so many different people to be a part of Mosaic in different capacities, and God just cultivating those relationships.
So good.
I think for me, the way I've seen God before Waukegan this week is actually having your sister Ada come and sing at our church.
Yes.
She led worship this past Sunday, and I think it was really impactful when she sang Waymaker in Spanish, just because even though Journey it's an English, service, I know a lot of the people that attend Journey do speak Spanish, and that is, their native tongue. So just being able to hear her speak in a native tongue that a lot of the people that I love at Journey speak, it's like, to me, I always say worship in Spanish is different. Like it hits different for me.
Yeah.
So just being in that space where she was able to worship the Lord and bless our church, in all honesty, because I remember feeling so moved. Like I started crying and I went to go hug one of the people that I've done life with before, and I thought about her because she loves Waymaker, but she loves it in Spanish. So just being able to have Ada share her gift with us and in all honesty, I feel like touch a bunch of people's hearts at Journey, and she's not even from our church,
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see how God is using even other people in different churches to bless it's his churches in Waukegan, right? And I think that would have honestly never happened if it wasn't for #for Waukegan and Mosaic just uniting all of us together.
Amen to that. I just want to say a little, I think how I've seen God before Waukegan is actually someone who is very passionate about #for Waukegan, and that's Raul. This week I've been able to get to work a little bit more alongside him, and today we had actually a breakfast with what we are going to now start a for Waukegan club within our community, and the way that he just makes himself available, you know, for this community. And I think that's how I've seen like God before Waukegan is through him and his heart for and passion and obedience to God in that calling. So yeah, like I'm just so excited that like we got to finally do this, guys.
Yeah.
This had been an episode I really wanted to do, and I'm very grateful for you guys joining us today. And I'm very
Thanks
grateful.
for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'm grateful for everybody that's listened up to this point. Just continue to support us, and thank you for being for Waukegan. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode. We're done.